Today we're going to review the Action Camera's gimbal, the iSteady Pro 4 by Hohem. We're gonna test it together. I'm gonna share with you the pros and cons I found during these tests. I'm sure some of you are gonna ask, why would you need a gimbal for the GoPro when the stabilizer of the camera is so good? Well, we're gonna share some of those reasons as well, so keep watching. And also you wanna stay tuned because we have a giveaway, an iSteady X2, still by Hohem. It's a smartphone stabilizer. You'll find out how to win it at the end of this video. Now we're gonna watch some footage I've taken with this gimbal and the GoPro Hero 10, and I'm gonna comment as we go. So let's watch some of these clips I filmed. The clips have been filmed with the GoPro Hero 10 with no stabilization on, but just with the stabilization of the gimbal. So you can of course see a bit of up and down. That's what happens, especially when you have light gear like this gimbal and the GoPro. If you have heavier gear, then the gravity tends to bring the gear down, and it's gonna help you with the stabilization. But again, this rig is very light. When you are still and you're just tilting and panning, it works fine. Of course, again, you see a bit of up and down here while walking. But once again, there's no stabilization in the GoPro. Overall, I don't think it's too bad, and we're gonna see more tests and more one-to-one comparison later on in the video without stabilization on the gimbal and just handheld with the GoPro. So again, keep watching. As I mentioned, the iSteady Pro 4 is a gimbal stabilizer, 3-axis gimbal for your action cameras. If you don't know what a gimbal is or how it works or how to balance it, go and check my previous video up here. Also, if you want to know more about the size, the weight, and what comes in the box of this specific gimbal, I recommend to go on the Hohem website, because today we're going to focus more on the features and the actual test of the gimbal. Let's go back to my initial question. Why would you use a gimbal on the GoPro, for example, which is renowned for its amazing stabilization? Yes, that's true. It works really well on GoPro, but when you apply the stabilization on the GoPro, you will have a 10% factor on your image. Still, it's not a big deal, but some people might not want that. They might want to have the widest field of view possible on their camera. Also, when you turn on the GoPro stabilization, that gives a lot of jittery effects, which I don't really like. I don't know what happened with this GoPro Hero 10. Seriously, the more I use it, the less happy I am. So I'm very indecisive myself to use either the stabilization on the GoPro and the gimbal, or turn it off. For some reason, I would love to have it on, but for others, not on this GoPro. It's a great tool also to achieve motion lapses. It's something you can't achieve with the GoPro only. Motion time lapses are basically time lapses with a movement on the camera as well. So you can place your camera on the gimbal and set up a route of your gimbal, and at the end of the recording you will have this motion time lapse. It's very useful to use as a stand. Sometimes you want a higher stand than just the GoPro, but also great to attach other accessories like an external monitor, a microphone, a light. And in this case, you could also use it as a power bank for your GoPro. All these features together, matched with your action camera, could give you a perfect vlogging rig, for example. Let's talk about some of the key features of the iSteady Pro 4. First of all, great compatibility. You can mount GoPros from the Hero 3 up to the Hero 10. You can place a DJI OSMO Action, Insta360 ONE R, the SONY RX10, and similar action cameras with the same size and weight. But the buttons here on the gimbal can control only the GoPros from 5 to 10. iSteady Pro 4 is water resistant, so in rainy days, or if you're using it snowboarding, for example, you shouldn't have any issues. Well, that's a plus. In terms of build, it's quite simple and it feels plasticky, to be honest with you guys, but it's a cheap gimbal, so that's what you pay for. You can find it on Amazon at $89.99, link in the description tab. I think also the gimbal itself is made of plastic, while other gimbals I tested are actually made of metal, which is a bit more solid and more professional looking. Talking about balancing, the iSteady Pro 4 is very user-friendly. You don't actually need to balance it. So there is a spring buckle here on the mount. You just open it up, and now you want to slide your GoPro in here, in this slot. Simple as that. You're going to pull the buckle up again and just fix it at the back. Very simple. Again, no balancing, ready to go. First downside here in this design is the back. Some of the screen is actually covered by the frame, so we can't access in an easy way some of the settings, and that really, it's kind of frustrating sometimes. Let's talk about the battery, which is actually internal, it's built in, and it can last up to 14 hours, which is great. But a greater feature is that it can be used as a power bank, so you can supply energy to your battery and it can run your batteries almost double the time. Now, to do so, you need a USB cable that goes to USB-C. And that's another problem I faced. When you mount the camera on the gimbal upright, so with the lens in the correct position, the connections are actually against the motors. So you are not able to access the connections for the cable, for example. But there's a solution to that. Let's do it. What you simply want to do is to remove the side door of the GoPro and place the camera upside down on the gimbal. Okay, let's do that. Simple as that. It works exactly the same way. The GoPro is fine anyway, and you can film as well. Also, now you can access the battery, which again was against one of the motors of the gimbal. What we do is to plug in here the cable, and we're gonna go on the side of the gimbal where you will find this door, and that's it. Now, as you can see, your battery is charging through the gimbal. Done that, we have another problem. If you haven't turned your camera on before, you can't do it now because the power button is against the motor. So definitely there's some design issues right here. Okay, luckily I powered it on before, so I can just press rec and start recording. But that's something you need to keep in mind. Keep going about the build. On this side, again, we will find a screw thread. So here you can attach a small arm, for example, this. And in this way, you can attach a light or an external microphone or a tiny monitor or smartphone to use as a monitor for your GoPro. This is an example. You can use the gimbal with a light. So that's pretty cool for vlogging. I want to show you another issue I found here on this system. The thread works well if you have something like this, a tiny arm, but let's say I want to use the cold shoe adapter now with something which is a bit thicker than the end of this arm. For example, something a bit chunkier, like the end of this microphone. And now the USB cable doesn't have any space to actually be inserted in there anymore. There are another couple of issues when trying to use an external microphone. As we know, this is actually a GoPro issue. They're basically running a microphone through the USB-C cable that goes through an adapter, and in here you can connect the mini jack. When we plug in the adapter of the GoPro's microphone, first of all, the weight shifts a lot to one of the side, which makes it impossible for the gimbal to hold your camera in place. So the stabilizer is useless. And the second problem is also that now you cannot use the power bank of the gimbal because the connection of the GoPro is already taken by the microphone. So overall, I don't think using an external microphone is possible with this gimbal. The only reason why I would use this screw thread is to attach a light or an external monitor. And also I would suggest to Hohem to actually place the screw on the other side. The other side of the gimbal is actually free. There's nothing here, there's no connection, not buttons. So why not to switch things around and keep one side for the connections and the other side for the adapters and screw threads. Let's see how to power on the gimbal, which is very user-friendly. Once again, we simply have a power button, which is the recording button. We hold it, 1, 2, 3, gimbal is on and it's ready to roll. We can wirelessly connect the GoPro to the gimbal as well, so we can actually use the buttons here on the gimbal. To do so, we go on our GoPro, we swipe down and we go to settings, connections. You want to have the wireless connections on and then go to connect device, the remote, and here simply you can pair the two devices. Now we have a joystick, we can rotate the camera left and right, up and down. A front trigger button. With the trigger button, you press it twice and the camera will go to the original position. Then if we press the rec button once, we activate the action, in this case, the photo. If you press it twice, you switch the mode on the GoPro, so you can go from photo to video and then start recording again by pressing the button once. And now you have the mode button, which is the actual mode of the gimbal. So you have the pan follow, which means the gimbal will only follow your panning movements. If you press it, you go to the pan and tilt. So whatever movement you do, the camera will follow you up and down, left and right. And the lock mode, whatever you do, the camera will stay in the same position. And the POV mode, which is more for faster actions, and the gimbal just moves all over the axis. And there's another button on the gimbal which just rotates the camera in a diagonal angle, basically in a diagonal axis. Something I kind of missed on the gimbal is the vlogging mode or selfie mode. Usually with a triple tap of the trigger in the front, the camera rotates 180 degrees towards you, so you can just start vlogging. But again, you simply can twist your wrist. I'm going to show you a few tests I've taken. Just read the description under each video to understand what's happening there. And then I want to hear your comments in the comment tabs. The app is something I didn't test. Actually, I didn't have the time to do so, and I've never used apps for gimbals anyway, so you might need to check other reviews, I guess. Conclusion. Okay, what do I think about the gimbal? Stabilization is not the best. I've seen, of course, I use bigger gimbals with better stabilization, but also smaller gimbals that can hold the camera in a better way. Still, it's not too bad. In any case, I would advise to use the stabilization of the GoPro on top of the gimbal as well, and that's what I usually do with all the other gimbals, to be honest, just to have the smoothest footage possible. I want to say thanks to Hohem to send this gimbal, but I have to be honest with the company and with you guys, because I hope my advice is going to be helpful for you in purchasing or not the gimbal. And once again, stabilization is okay, it's not the best, I think, but in particular there are some problems with the design. There are a lot of good features and ideas, like the power bank is great to double your battery life, and also being able to attach an external monitor, all these different things, but they're just in the wrong place and the design doesn't match the features. So the design kind of makes these features useless. If I had to buy the gimbal, I'm not sure if I would be that happy. You know, you read the description and go, yeah, it's a cool thing, and then you test it out and there's some problems that you can't fix, and yeah, so that's my first impression of the gimbal. But I want to know what you think, in particular, what you think about the test I've taken. What do you think about the stabilization of it? Maybe I'm just being too hard. Let's talk about the giveaway, because that's what I mentioned in the beginning. We have an iSteady X2 to give away, and once again I say thanks to Hohem because they offered this giveaway for you guys. So I hope you're going to be thankful and grateful as well. What you have to do to have a chance to win it is to follow Hohem on Instagram. The link is here, instagram.com/ohemtech. But also you want to leave a comment under this video on my YouTube channel telling me why you want or you need the gimbal. And also in the same comment, I want you to leave your Instagram handle so we can actually double check if you're following and if you're entering this competition. And then of course you want to hit the subscribe button, that's a must. Interact with the video, do whatever you have to do. I hope the review kind of helped. Maybe we can go in more depth in the future, but that's my first impression of the iSteady Pro 4. I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.